Megovan and friends, Yoiston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth today. Thank you all for joining me on the second live stream for the channel. I really appreciate you all. Now, before we get started with questions, I wanted to talk about the giveaway that we're doing real fast. So all you have to do to enter this giveaway is like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a question in the live stream. At the end of today's live stream, I will randomly select one person's comment, and that person will win the Men of the West commemorative coin. I'll let you all know who wins, and that person will have 24 hours to contact me over Facebook, Twitter, YouTube messages, or email before I choose a new winner from the comments section after this video is posted. Let me know if you all have any questions about that specific giveaway, and I'll answer them as best as I may. Hey everyone! Thanks for joining. Hope you guys are all doing well this morning, afternoon, night, wherever you guys are. So yeah, just start dropping those questions, and we'll get to it. Hey everyone, yeah, it's good to see you guys. Also, I'm curious. Let me know what time it is for all of you guys, and if this is better than the last time I did it. Last time I did it Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right now it's Wednesday, 11 Eastern Standard. So, wow, greetings from Greece. Hello from America. Yeah, that's awesome. Afternoon, cool. Yeah, I was trying to do a different time so I could kind of. I don't know, so I could kind of make sure more people could make it that couldn't make it to the last one, so. Let's see, what if Sauron repented at the end of the First Age? Thank you, Aaron, for the question. I think if Sauron... Oh, wow. I think if Sauron repented at the end of Melkor's deeds, he probably would have been kind of arrested by the Valar, taken to judgment in Valinor, like the original plan was. I think it was Eonwë who told him to go back to Valinor and await judgment, and then he fled into Middle-earth, leading to the Second and Third Ages. But honestly, there probably wouldn't have been many, if any, problems, at least not on the same scale that we were used to in the Second and Third Ages, if Sauron would have repented. It's good to see you guys. Welcome to this live stream. Romania, greetings. See, if I were to enter into Middle-earth through some manner of portal, where would I set up my home? Oh, that's a good question. Thank you, Brimstone. I would say, there are definitely a few different places, but just to set up my first home would probably have to be in the Shire. The inhabitants could teach me more about Middle-earth because they live in it, and than I could ever read in books, you know, and they would be able to kind of tell me the lay of at least their land, and then I would probably go on to explore from there, but I just set up my original home in the Shire. Do I think Pippin's mistakes led to the victory of the West? From Dan. I'd say that's a funny question. I'd say to some degree Pippin's mistakes led them to to it, because to some degree, even in the books, you could argue this is that Gandalf would have never become Gandalf the White if Pippin hadn't thrown a stone down the well in Moria. It's kind of funny. It's because of Pippin that that the Balrog was kind of awakened, right? That everyone in Moria was awakened. So then Gandalf had to fight the Balrog, and he became Gandalf the White after that. So it could be maybe Gandalf wouldn't have been powerful enough as Gandalf the Grey. So it could be through an indirect way that Pippin's mistakes caused the fall of Sauron. It's kind of interesting. Thank you all for joining. Welcome, everyone. Who's my favorite Vala? I'd say that's between Arome, the hunter, because he just has some interesting things. He's kind of not held up in the politics of the Valar. He's just kind of out exploring the world. He was the one that originally found the elves after they awoke. And I'd also say Tulkas. Every time he appears on the scene, he's like one of the only ones that can kind of make Melkor shy away from a fight, you know? It's kind of hilarious actually to read. Thanks for that question, Andrew. Let's see. Why did Saruman turn evil? Thanks, Mark. I would say it's primarily he turned evil because it was out of selfish reason. He wanted to gain power over Middle-earth for himself. As we kind of know with the One Ring, its power is in the will to dominate, and Saruman lusted after that power, right? And even though he did team up with Sauron, if he had gotten the ring, that alliance would not have lasted. He would have betrayed Sauron, or Sauron would have gone after him for the One Ring. So it was just for more power. Paul, thanks for joining us, and thanks for the this next question. What if Valinor was never separated from Middle-earth? I would say, oh wow, that's a great question. If Valinor was never separated and you could sail from the west coast of Middle-earth to the east coast of Valinor, I would say that yeah, I would say the Valar would definitely have to intervene more throughout all of the ages. People would probably sail there way more often whenever there was a problem, right? You have these wars like the War of the Elves and Sauron, the War of the Last Alliance, the War of the Ring, all of these different conflicts. People probably would have just kept going to Valinor to ask for help, because that would have been an easier thing to do than trying to strategize, well, how do we fight Sauron off this time? Thank you guys so much for the support. It really means a lot. If I had to be a man, elf, dwarf, hobbit, or any that I could think of, what would I be? Thanks for the question, HB Wraith. I would say, out of all these, it really comes down to where I'd live and what I'd do. Likely, I would be a man, a Dunedain of the remnants of Arnor in the late Third Age. So one of the Rangers, right, going through the North Downs and Evendim and Bree, just kind of protecting the land, but just kind of also honoring, you know, the kinship of Numenor. Yeah, thanks for the question. RoboLord123, nice name. He asks, how do you consider magic in the Tolkien universe? Is it merely only the authority of a kingly man or the careful crafts of the elves, or do you see it as actual magic? Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, and again, like with questions like these, it's kind of how I've interpreted Tolkien's works. I could be completely wrong from what the professor would have to say, but these are kind of from everything that I've read and all the research that I've done. This is how I would interpret it. Is magic is kind of seen as almost like a heavenly device, almost, right? And that's why what hobbits would consider magic, elves would consider more everyday things, right? Elrond using Vilya, for instance, to maintain Rivendell. Hobbits would consider that magic, but elves would kind of consider that almost what we would say science, I guess. I would say it's also, yeah, just it's this heavenly faithful thing. And the people closest to the Valar, to the descendants of Valinor, of Numenor, they're the ones who have more of these special abilities. Like, as you notice, Aragorn has the ability to heal as others don't, because he is of the line of kings, and he is descended even from Melion, the Maya, who was married to Thingol. And I'm sure those kind of things, because he was so holy almost, gave him these abilities. So I would say it's not really just straight up magic, because that's kind of an easy way out of answering any narrative plots, right? An author can just write, hey, I'm just going to use magic to fix this plot hole. But I really don't think Tolkien takes that route. Magic, sometimes it can be used as, it's written from the perspective of the Hobbit, right? The Lord of the Rings written by Frodo, and the Hobbit is written by Bilbo. they see what Gandalf does as magic, but maybe Gandalf just sees it as a weapon. He sees it as a tool, almost. So, hope that answers your question. It's a really complex one when you get to the heart of it, but... yeah, welcome, everyone. Darth Revan. Oh, I love that character, honestly. He asks 2 questions. One, do you think that we should have seen Sauron remove his helmet and show his face? And do you think we should see them arrive at Valinor and Gandalf become young? Good questions. I would say, I don't know if Sauron, if he took off his helmet, what would happen, honestly? Like, in the late Third Age, when he doesn't even have the ring. Now, maybe in the War of the Last Alliance, or before he went to Numenor and lost his ability to shapeshift. That could have been interesting to see, but I don't think it could have fit into the movie. But yeah, in the War of the Last Alliance, I'm not sure what would have been under there. I feel like it would have just been his dark spirit under there. So, I don't think it was necessary. It would have been obviously cool to kind of see what his Maya, like him as his almost demigod appearance would have looked like. But yeah, that would have been interesting. And see them arrive in Valinor. In the movies, that would have been great to see and very interesting. But I think at the end of the day, I like the send-off that they gave, both Tolkien and Peter Jackson, that they gave to Frodo and Gandalf and all of them, just sailing into the West. It's like we aren't sure what to expect for them, and really neither are they, except Gandalf, who's been in Valinor before. So I just kind of like that sailing off into heaven, into the unknown kind of thing. Thanks for the question. I'm going to take a drink real fast. Stevil asks, how long do you think it will be until the inevitable remakes? I don't know if I will see them in my lifetime. I mean, probably. Honestly, with how Hollywood has been doing things, they're doing a lot of remakes, but I don't really know. I would think that we would sooner see the Hobbit movies remade than we would the Lord of the Rings. Because the Lord of the Rings movies were so legendary and epic as far as cinematic kind of traits go, as far as movies go, that I don't think anyone would want to try it again for until we have new technology to work with, new arts and filming and all of these kinds of things. And then maybe somebody who thinks, you know what, we can bring Middle-earth to life more, they might take a shot at it. The Hobbit, though, because of the narrative problems and because it was kind of far away from the source material, I would say maybe another 10, 20 years before we see a Hobbit remake, but I would think that might happen. Thanks for the question. Johan asks, are there any drakes left in the north? Thanks for the question. I would say that probably. I'd say that there's a good chance, at least. And, but we don't know. And that's kind of the interesting things. North of the Misty Mountains, north of the Grey Mountains, we don't really know what's going on up there. And it's definitely possible because the War of Wrath was, like a few thousand years ago? Well, I say a few, but I mean like 6,000 years ago. 7,000. And it's definitely possible that there were more drakes up there. And I would say likely because we don't know for sure, and I'm sure Melkor had a lot of drakes in his service. So I would say likely. The Red Oranger asks, anyone here play Battle for Middle-earth 2? I love those games, and I love Rise of the Witch King and the Edain mod. Played those a lot as kids, and I still play them now. They're really fantastic games. I always go back and make sure to play it at least a few times a year. So much fun. Who is Legolas's mother from Musa? Musa? Sorry, sorry if I'm pronouncing your names wrong. let's see. We don't. Back when I was doing Thranduil's Epic Character History, like the remake of it in January, I think it was, I tried to find as much information as I could about Thranduil's wife or Legolas's mother. There was nothing. There was nothing going on there. But so I don't know. I think Tolkien left her unnamed, and I'm still looking. Maybe I just missed something, but I really don't think there's much on her. I would imagine she was just probably slain by orcs or sailed into the west at some point. And that kind of left the woodland realm in chaos. Well, not necessarily chaos, but sorrow, sadness. Yeah, I saw somebody in the comments. They said, yeah, HB Wraith said there are cold drakes, but Smaug's the last fire drake. I'd agree with that. Probably the only remaining drakes are probably cold drakes, yeah. And cold drakes, we don't really see them much, but like the Watcher in the water, it's definitely possible that he was a cold drake, but just kind of a water-based cold drake. Are you Max Rasmus? Man, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing those names wrong. I probably am. Rasmus asks, are you max level in Lord of the Rings Online? I am. Pretty proud of that. My character Yoistin actually is level 115 on Arkenstone. So what do I do for a living? From Menace Tirith 1. Right now, my only job is YouTube and all of the things that come along with it, like Patreon, and just I put the merchandise up and all of that kind of stuff. Really, that's all I do right now. I'm currently going to college for political science, so I can, I don't know, just try to make a bigger difference in the world. Yeah, every 20 minutes or so throughout this live stream, I just want to remind you guys, all you have to do to win the Men of the West commemorative coin is like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a question in the live stream. And at the end of the live stream, I'll randomly select a comment, and I'll shout out to that person. They have 24 hours to contact me with their, I guess, shipping address and their information, and then I'll go ahead and send it to them. If they don't contact me, then just leave a comment on the live stream after it's posted, and I'll go through there tomorrow and choose a winner. So, best of luck to everyone. What if the Eodrid asks, what if the Union of Maethros had won the Battle of Unnumberable Tears? Ooh, that's a good question. If that had happened, I think Melkor would have been at least pushed back for a time, and I don't know if the Valar would have intervened, at least as soon as they did. I don't think Elendil would have said, you know what, let's go to Valinor. Because there still would have been hope for the Free Peoples when Elendil said, or when Elendil and his wife took the Silmaril to Valinor. Ultimately, that was kind of this last ditch effort to say, maybe we can still win this against Melkor. But if the Union of Maethros had won, I think ultimately, yeah, Melkor would have been pushed back for a time. I don't think he would have been pushed back for long, because every time that we see him being pushed back throughout the Silmarillion, kind of like the Battle of the Sudden Flame, all of that, he kind of pushes back. He takes his time. He hides in Angband, and then he builds some kind of new thing, like whether it's a dragon or a giant army or whatever it is, and then he pushes back. I don't think the Free Peoples could have assaulted Angband without the help of the Valar, personally. Yeah, Darth Revan asks, other than Lord of the Rings, what other universes do you love? My favorites are, yeah, besides Middle-earth and besides Tolkien's Legendarium, are definitely the Star Wars universe, is the Star Wars universe next. And after that, I'd say the Game of Thrones, Westeros and Essos and all of that followed after that. Oh, thank you for the donation, Shane. It means a lot. What are my opinions and thoughts about the new Lord of the Rings TV show and the news of Peter Jackson not being involved? And what would I want to see? I'm hopeful for this new series. I think it has the potential to be really good, right? You can draw on so much source material from the appendices, and you don't even necessarily need the Silmarillion at this point. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see movies or TV shows or something to do with the Silmarillion, but at this point, there's so much other source material that's in the back of The Return of the King. They can easily make 5 seasons worth of content out of it. And yeah, so I'm very hopeful. That Peter Jackson's not involved, it's kind of sad because, you know, he's been involved in so many Middle-earth projects, but I'm also okay with it because I've seen his take on Middle-earth. I want to see some other directors take their shot at bringing Tolkien's world to life. Yeah, and what would I want to see? I want to see more of like this, how the appendices are set up. I don't want to see one narrative go through all 5 seasons. I want to see, right, Aragorn's backstory season 1, season 2, the Sons of Durin, or the folk of Eorl, right? So kind of the beginning of the Riders of Rohan, or yeah, the dwarves, or something like that, right? Like there's a lot to work with in the appendices. Maybe some kind of background on the elves would be cool. Something, right? And they don't just have to use the appendices. There are, I'm sure, other sources that are open to them as well. But yeah, I'm hopeful. I just kind of want to see some backgrounds on certain things, especially things that we didn't get to see in the movies so much, at least. Maybe the East, Rune, or the South in even some areas of Gondor that we didn't see too much. Dol Amroth, things like that. Umbar, that'd be great. Thanks for the question. Sincere Harpy asks, do you have a favorite part from the Silmarillion? Thanks for the question. One of my favorite parts from the Silmarillion is it's at the beginning. It's the Ainu Lindale, right? The beginning of the universe, and even right after that, when the world itself is being formed. And yeah, those are just such great chapters. I mean, I love the whole book and everything, but that's definitely one of my favorite parts because it's so impressionistic, I would say. You just have the creation of everything and the meanings of all these different Valar and their elements and all of that. Thanks for the question. I'm probably going to say this name wrong. I'm sorry in advance. Danis Little Makeup, thanks for the donation. Will I get the Fall of Gondolin, and what are my expectations about it? Greetings from Ireland. Oh, thanks for joining us. I'm definitely going to get the Fall of Gondolin. My expectations about it, I would say just to add even a little bit more background on the more vital parts of the book. Such as maybe a greater conversation between Tur and Ulmo, the Lord of the Seas. Just some things that add more character moments, more setting moments, things like that. That's all I'm looking for, really. Just to kind of expand and broaden the view on that time in Tolkien's works. Thomas Roguet. Sorry, I butchered that name. I already know. Sorry, your internet went down. Your question is, what was the necklace in The Hobbit that the dwarves had and the elves wanted so much? I believe it's the necklace of Girion. It was... There's not too much on it, and I want to make sure I don't get this wrong, so I'm going to look it up real fast. Let's see. So it was a necklace from Bard's ancestor, Girion. and he had traded it to the dwarves for kind of this, for a mithril coat like Bilbo has, and then it kind of passed down to, it stayed in the treasure hoard of Erebor. I think Peter Jackson took some liberties there in how much the elves and dwarves and everyone wanted it, but it was, in the books at least, it was a way to kind of bring all of the free peoples together at the end of the day, because the dwarves wanted it, the elves wanted it, and at the end of the day it came from men, it came from the men of Dale. But what Bard did was he took the gems, gave the emeralds to the Elven King, and Bard took back the necklace. So it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was just kind of this symbol between a link between or for the elves, men, and dwarves. So hope that helps. What is the city in the background? This is Minas Tirith in the Lord of the Rings Online. I just thought it was a really cool picture, so I was like, I'll just use it for the next live stream. Here, I'm going to throw out something on Facebook and Twitter real fast to see if more people can join us. Make sure no one's missing out. Oh, maybe. Not exactly. I'm still kind of new to live streaming, so I'm still trying to figure out how to share. Oh, there it is. Share the link. Okay. Virus, thanks for the donation, means a lot. How would Sauron's body return after gaining the One Ring? Does the eye act as a portal for his spirit to gain physical form? That's a great question. I'm going to take a drink real fast and then I'll answer it. So, in Peter Jackson's movies, he uses, the flaming eye atop Barad-dûr. But in the books, there's no real indication that flaming eye is exactly there. And personally, I don't think there is one. I think Mordor uses the red eye as their symbol, kind of like Gondor uses the white tree as theirs. But I don't think there was an actual flaming eye above the Tower of Barad-dûr. I think Sauron was just inside of Barad-dûr, using the Minas Ithil Palantir to see as the eye did in the movies. If he was returned the One Ring, if he got it back, I think I don't know if it could have necessarily returned him to physical form, but it probably would have just returned him to physical power. He was already in physical form in the books. Like I said before, he was just holding the Palantir in the Tower of Barad-dûr. I think it just would have given him a lot more of his spirit back, of his Feia, because he used part of his Feia in the creation of the One Ring. That's how he was so bound to it. He used and imbued part of his spirit into the One Ring. So if he got that back, he would become, I would say, complete, is a good word for it. And then he'd go from there to conquer Middle-earth. I just read the other day that the War of the Last Alliance was the largest gathering of a host of the Free Peoples since the War of Wrath, and I don't think there was a larger gathering afterwards, like in the Third Age. So, I mean, if the people of the Second Age were barely able to take him down, I don't think the Third Age would have been able to, right? You do have a lot of great heroes, don't get me wrong, but no one really stands up to the power of Gil-galad and Elendil the Tall, Isildur, Anarion, Glorfindel, Círdan the Shipwright, all of these people, even though some of them were still there, it's just like they weren't participating as they were in the War of the Last Alliance. So, thanks for the question. Why wasn't Sauron in Mordor during the Hobbit time period? WR asks that. Thanks for the question. He was rebuilding his strength. This was the time after the Watchful Peace when he... So, yeah, the War of the Last Alliance ended with his defeat. As we all know, he Isildur took the One Ring and all of that. He kind of afterwards would flee when he regained enough power. He'd flee from Mordor to regain his power and strength in secret. He went to Dol Guldur, his abandoned fortress. Whenever anyone kind of caught wind that, oh, someone's there, Gandalf would investigate it. He fled, I believe, this was probably during or right after the Watchful Peace. He fled, and Gandalf didn't see him. Obviously, Gandalf would come back and realize, oh, the Necromancer is Sauron. But he came back to Dol Guldur, and he was just regaining his strength. I think it was just because no one knew that he would be there necessarily. If he stayed in Mordor, it'd be like, oh, well, that's Sauron, straight up. But if he was in, Dol Guldur, and sometimes he fled into the east, no one exactly could trace him. No one knew exactly who he was and could follow him. So I think it was just to rebuild his strength. That's why after the events of The Hobbit, after the White Council in the books made him, they purged him from Dol Guldur in 2941, he fled, and he was ready. He was powerful enough to rebuild in Mordor. Ebert X, thanks for the donation. Any secrets you know of the Blue Wizards? I hate to disappoint, but I don't know anything that most anyone else doesn't know, unfortunately, concerning that topic. They're a very interesting enigma of Tolkien's works, right? These two powerful beings got to Middle-earth, and then they just left. And they just went east, and they were never seen again. I would say the only thing is just that I don't hear a lot of people talking about is Sauron. He went east with them at one point, and then he returned, but they didn't. That's kind of a little bit shady. He would have been the last person to know, Sauron the White. He would have been the last person to know what happened, or the last thing that happened to the Blue Wizards, but we never hear him talk about it. So I think, I don't know, I can only speculate, right? I can only theorize here, but yeah, I would say maybe he kind of bumped them off, if you will, in the east. So thanks for the question. What do I think about, Ian Miller asks, what do you think about Fingolfin's fight against Morgoth? I love it. I really do. There's, I'm juggling with maybe doing a new series where I do a kind of dramatic reading of a certain point throughout his stories, Tolkien's stories, and I just make it come to life. And I would love to do it on that scene specifically. It's sad. It's a sad scene, don't get me wrong, because Fingolfin, he's just like, there's no hope left, so I'm just gonna challenge Sauron, or challenge Morgoth. I know there's no hope, right? But I'm gonna fight him anyway. But honestly, that he got a few good hits in, and that he almost showed Melkor up. Morgoth was almost like, no, I'm not gonna fight him. I'm not gonna answer his call. But then all of Morgoth's commanders were like, we're watching him, and he didn't want to seem weak in front of them, so he went forward, fought Fingolfin, and again, Fingolfin got some good shots in on him. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts about that new series in the comments. Like, I'd just love to bring something like that to life. So, seems like people are liking it. So, thanks. Yeah, I think I'll take a shot at it pretty soon. Thank you, guys. Let's see here. Oh no. Here we go again. JVR? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. He asks, why was Ungoliant living in Valinor for so long without being found? Thanks for the question. I think she was... Well, so she had something called Unlight. It was basically her webs that she could spin that was like pure darkness. And that's how even when Morgoth and her were escaping from the destruction of the two trees of Valinor, she was able to hide them with her unlight, and Orome, who was chasing after them and could have probably caught them, he's fast enough, I'm sure, with his horse, he couldn't find them, he couldn't see them, because of her unlight. So I'd say that was a big reason why. And she was in the far south of the world. No one was looking for her, and no one knew that she was necessarily there, I guess, except Morgoth, unless he stumbled upon her by accident. But yeah, I don't think anyone was necessarily looking for her. She was pretty far removed, and she was using her unlight. So the Valar were able to, or, you know, they didn't see her. They didn't find her. Aryan asks, when are you going to make more videos on the early First Age and the major battles fought in Beleriand? And if so, could you please speak about Turin's sword? Thanks for the question. Yeah, no, I definitely want to get into more First Age content soon. I've been kind of sticking the past month, I'd say, into Third Age, Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit kind of content. Just because I know when the Fall of Gondolin releases. Like, so this next weekend I'm doing... oh my gosh, what am I doing? It's the, oh yeah, the differences between the Fellowship book and the movie. After that, I'm going to do a video on Torgon, the King of Gondolin, just to kind of build up to the release of the book. And then after that, the next few weekends of that, I'm going to cover, or after that, I'm going to cover the book, or not the book itself, but I'm going to cover, the kind of synopsis that we're given in the Silmarillion, kind of like what I did with Beren and Luthien and the Children of Húrin. Just kind of the main plot and all of that, because I know the book will inevitably stick true to the Silmarillion itself. And so yeah, I'll just go through the Silmarillion events of the Fall of Gondolin and do that in like 2 videos. So yeah, don't worry. There's definitely a lot of First Age content coming. In a row as well. That's just why I've been sticking to Third Age recently, because there will be 3 weeks pretty soon of just First Age content. So thanks for your question. Okay. Peking S Jedi? Well, I tried. Yoyston, would you say Howard Shore's scores are as great as Williams' ones for Star Wars? Oh yeah, yeah. I love both of their scores, honestly. And I listen to I listen to both of them all the time, honestly. But yeah, Howard Shore's scores, like I grew up listening to it, or to them, and I listen to them almost every day now. Really, they're phenomenal. I would honestly hold them up as some of the greatest music of all time. But Gabriel asks, if Aule created 7 dwarf fathers, how do they kind of form the rest of their race? How do they have children? You know, it's funny with what Gimli said in the movies that some people think dwarves just spring up out of the ground. Honestly, I mean, that's as much of an explanation as we ever get. But there are definitely dwarf women. Thorne's sister, her name is Diz, I believe. D-I-S. And yeah, so that's an example of a dwarf woman that we get. I'm pretty sure he even calls Fili and Kili his sister sons, right? So she's definitely a canon character. So there are female dwarves, but I just don't think they are the kind of leaders of Durin's folk from just how their culture is. They're definitely well respected, but yeah, we don't get many characters that are female dwarves, so they are there, but yeah, I would say that they're just kind of these background characters almost. And maybe honestly they just blend in with dwarven males so much. So who knows? Maybe they are maybe they are in the forefront of the books, just we don't know. We don't know if they're male or female, quite honestly. So yeah, hope that helps. Thomas, thanks for the donation, Thomas. Means a lot. What made the first elves, or the elves of the First Age, so much stronger and important than the ones in the Third Age? I mean, there never were new Feanors or Celebrimbors in importance. That's a great question. So how I interpret it is the High Elves were so much stronger than these other elves, than like the Sylvian elves and all of the Third Age kind of ones, because, or most of the Third Age ones. You still have a few High Elves like Galadriel or Glorfindel or whoever else, but yeah, these elves went into the West, right? They lived in Valinor for a time and saw the light of the two trees. The light of the two trees was a very special thing, right? Because the sun and the moon are only but like machinations of these trees. The trees are I think, far stronger than the sun and the moon in power. And they saw these trees firsthand. And I think that, mixed with living in Valinor amongst the Valar themselves, I think that made them stronger, more wise, intelligent, and all of that. And that's kind of why the further we get away from the First Age and those elves... Now, granted, not every elf was a high elf in the First Age, but a good chunk of them were. I think most of those... Because we move away from those elves in time, yeah, they just grew weaker, inevitably. Which is a common theme in Tolkien's works, right? You have the past, which is, to some degree, a lot stronger than the present or than the future. It goes back to that kind of his art style, I would say, and the love that he has for history, that Tolkien has for history in the real world. He just, as time kind of progresses, people forget the old ways. They forget how to create things in older ways, right? We just keep looking forward. Sure, we expand in technology and these other things, but at the same time, we lose our architecture, our crafts of old. So that's at least how I interpret it. But it's definitely a deep question. Jacob, thanks for the donation. Lord of the Rings Conquest. Yeah, I love Lord of the Rings Conquest. You know, actually, me and my brother, we would always play it, and just a memory that I have about it is, because it wasn't the most polished game, which was kind of one of the greatest things about it, was just because it was kind of broken. Now, it was also kind of, obviously, it sucked in a way, too, because, again, it wasn't finished. But again, that's kind of how everyone remembers it. I remember with my brother, he would always play, right, as Sauron, and I would just take one of the assassin characters and, like, one-shot him, and that would be that. And, yeah, he'd be kind of upset, which I don't blame him. Again, kind of a broken game, but that's how everyone remembers it, so it was a lot of fun. Paul, says, please do Gamerjack's idea of basically a series where you read the Silmarillion, but if you do, please don't overuse accents or voice manipulation. Yeah, no, thank you. That's a great idea. And honestly, like I like a bit of voice manipulation, like I did with the Children of Húrin and Glaurung's voice. A bit is fine, because I can't do a dragon's voice that well on my own. But yeah, I think some bit of voice acting is definitely necessary, but yeah, no, I'd love to do it in such a way to bring the Silmarillion to life. Because again, we don't have the TV shows, we don't have the movies of the Silmarillion. Hoping one day we will, but honestly, I'd love to bring the Silmarillion, especially parts of it, to life. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion. I just want to remind you all, if you want to enter into the giveaway, all you have to do is like the video, subscribe to the channel, and just leave a question in the live stream. At the end of the live stream, I'll go ahead and select one person randomly, and that person will have 24 hours to send me their information through Facebook, Twitter, YouTube messages, email, whatever it is. Send me their information, like where I should ship the commemorative coin to, before I look at the comment section after the live stream is posted, and then I'll just choose a different winner. So everyone, please enter in, and yeah. All right. Yeah, Gamerjack, thanks for that idea. Yep. No, definitely. I'll try to play with and kind of work with the voice acting and the reading part of it, because it has to be exactly right. They won't be long videos, I'll say that now. Like, they'd probably be 1.5 to 2 minute videos of me reading certain important sections of the Silmarillion. But they would be very... I would want to spend a lot of time editing and a lot of time making sure that they are high quality, if I can, you know. Nathaniel, thanks for the donation. What if Numenor saw through Sauron's lies? That's a great question. If they did, I don't think they would have fallen. I really think they probably would have kept Sauron in captivity, and they would have just gone on to be this great, massive kingdom. I mean, likely they probably would have fallen apart like the Roman Empire did, but in real life. But yeah, they would have continued to be great, and Numenor probably would never have sank. Thanks for the question. James, thanks for the donation. Do you think Middle-earth would still be around if the Great War didn't happen in Tolkien's lifetime? Do you mean like the... Oh, okay. I get what you mean. Okay. I think so. At least I think a version of it would be. Tolkien says that he doesn't like allegory in a lot of ways. Oh, good old cars passing by. He doesn't like allegories, metaphors in a lot of ways. So the people that were like, oh, Saruman is a comparison for Hitler during World War II, he would always discard those rumors, you know. But just because he was trying to create a story of his own that drew on influences from historical documents, historical literature, all of those kinds of things, I think we would still have a version of it regardless of if the world wars had happened during his lifetime. Yeah. Yeah, I would say just because of how he writes and his inspirations, a version of it would still be around. I doubt it would be the same exact tale. Because, you know, no author can deny the time period that they're writing in and the influences just from everyday life, so... David says that he would be glad if I talked a bit about Faramir. Sure, yeah. I honestly, as a character, you get this from every book reader, right? But Faramir is phenomenal. I love that character because he is just wise enough and strong enough to know in his own right this war is not going to be won by weapons. It's not going to be won by some hero running out in the middle of the battlefield with this magical artifact and a sword. He just knows that, right? So he could have tried, like Boromir, to be that hero, to be the person, the idol that everyone looked to go out in the battlefield and just be this hero, right? But he knew that wasn't the way that they were going to win. The way that they were going to win was through compassion and understanding, through the destruction of the Dark Lord's greatest machinations. And yeah, I just love that about Faramir's character. He's kind of, especially since the movies came out, the unsung hero of Middle-earth. At least one of them. Because he could have just screwed everything up if he wanted to. He could have taken the ring, killed the hobbits, or given them to Denethor and been done with it. But no, he stuck around and said, I'm going to help you guys. I'm going to help you guys out on your quest. I don't necessarily agree with the road you're taking, but if that's kind of where you're forced to go, I'll help you out. And yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great mentor, even kind of for Frodo, and companion. He shows how men are supposed to be, like Aragorn, you know? So, yeah, I love that character, and I want to learn more about him. I want to do a Faramir epic character history at some point, just because that character is so awesome. What would happen if the Witch King took the One Ring? From Andrew. Thanks for the question. If the Witch King took the One Ring, it would probably go back to Sauron, but just for the sake of, possible theory, let's say he took it for himself. If he did, he wouldn't be as strong as Sauron. I doubt it. You know, because Sauron was was that Dark Lord who created the One Ring. But at the end of the day, I think the Witch King would be definitely the second strongest. I think he could probably take down Saruman, just because of his direct power and command over armies and the other Nazgul. But again, that would never come to pass because they were bound to Sauron's will, and they would have to give him the One Ring back. So, Gothmog the Great, love the name. He asks, "Is Lotro your favorite video game of all time?" Definitely. Oh, I can say that certainly. It's a Middle-earth simulation, right? It's such an easy way to just escape into Middle-earth. Now you do have some of these game like quests that are kind of generic with things, you know. Again, my example is always defeat 10 rats. Those kinds of quests that are just like tropes. That's the word I'm looking for. Tropes of the video game genre. That kind of hurts parts to some degree, but you can definitely overlook them for the Middle Earth that you're getting. Again, like just this picture here, Middle Earth Minas Tirith from the background, phenomenal, right? No other game has done this in such a way. Yeah, really, it's fantastic. So I would say anyone thinking about playing it, yeah, go for it. Go for it. You know, there might be those frustrating quests or those, you know, not necessarily important quests, but definitely at the end of the day worth playing. I actually took this screenshot when I was helping King Elisar or Aragorn find a new white tree sapling. Like that was fantastic. That was awesome. Just because, yeah, that's so lore related, so book related, you know. I would never think to find that I could help Aragorn find, yeah, the white tree sapling just in any media. But that you can in Lotro, that's fantastic. Oh, thanks. Thank you all for the support. You know, it really means a lot. Geek Zone is also really good from Paul. Yeah, I love Geek Zone. He's a great guy. If you guys haven't checked out his content, I'd say go for it. He's covered topics that I haven't been able to get to yet, and he's a good friend of mine. I definitely want to do a collaboration with him at some point. So. Red Panda C asks, what would Tolkien think of the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies? I think he would be kind of neutral on them, honestly. I think he would dislike the Hobbit movies. I think he'd be neutral on the Lord of the Rings movies. Just because he sees kind of how his work was used in a new medium to help people, to help people find Middle-earth, to give people comfort and let them see heroics and valor in like this way that they aren't used to seeing in media. And honestly, it sticks true enough to Tolkien's works. You'd probably understand a lot of the differences that were made in at least the Lord of the Rings movies. Again, I don't think he would like the Hobbit movies very much, but from what I've read about how Tolkien just interacts, he would just be like, okay, I don't like the Hobbit movies, but whatever. With the Lord of the Rings, I think he'd be like, I mean, they're good, fine, you know, but I think he would still think that, right, the books are the ultimate source, and they really are. They're the Bible of really all geek lore. I hope no one minds my saying, but yeah, you know, and I think, yeah, he would just see they're good movies. They're good in their own right, but yeah, you know, they're still movies. They're still subjected to Hollywood stuff. I mean, maybe he would like the Lord of the Rings movies. Now that I'm really thinking about it, I think he'd be neutral to liking. I don't think he would love or hate them, but he'd just be kind of somewhere in the middle. Andreas, thank you. Thanks for the support for staying so long. They said that they were here from 400 subscribers. Thank you for the long time support. It really means a lot. How long am I streaming? I think we're gonna do another, 15-20 minutes, I'd say. So yeah, to enter in the contest, I'll go through it again. All you have to do to enter the contest for the commemorative Men of the West coin is just like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a question, and at the end, I'll choose somebody randomly, and then they have 24 hours to send me their information on where to ship the coin before I choose a new winner from the comments section after the video is posted. So, awesome. Oh yeah. An Anemist channel says that CinemaSins called Lord of the Rings the Nerd Bible. Yeah, it's so true. Well, it brought back so much from old literature, you know, from things that, like Beowulf, that, like, I doubt people in their 20s would sit down to read Beowulf right now if Lord of the Rings hadn't come out and maybe inspired them to do so. Beowulf would have been almost this lost piece, almost. We still have some versions and things of it, but Tolkien definitely revived it along with other works, but especially through his own literature, Tolkien brought these old themes, these old pieces of literature back into the present day. So yeah, definitely it's like a nerd Bible. a geek Bible, yeah. Zach, I love you too, man. Thank you guys all so much for the support. It really means a lot. What do I think of... Crazy Ninja asks, what do I think of Shadow of War? not a big fan, if I'm being honest. It's just like, again, I'm sure, like, the gameplay is, you know, it's good. It's whatever, you know, the mechanics are fine and all that good stuff, but like the plot, as far as I'm concerned, the plot, and all that stuff, it's just like, no, it doesn't do it for me. I understand if other people are fine with it and stuff, but I always say, right, if you're gonna translate something into a new video game, a new movie, you should keep the themes of what you're translating. And Lotro does this very well, very well. Like, it feels like you're in Middle Earth. It feels like you're interacting with the characters that you've read about. You know, and that the quests are what you would do. You know, you're not just robbing, like, not saying that this happens in Shadow of War or anything, but just for an example, you're not like robbing a citizen of Gondor, you know, or doing something that you wouldn't do in Middle Earth. You're doing everything that that fits in this universe, you know. So, Ian Miller asks, what do you think of the poems in the Lord of the Rings books, and which is my favorite? Oh, yeah, those are really great. This is something that Tolkien does that really that not a lot of other people can do. He can integrate even just straight Elvish for like 2 pages, 3 pages, and keep his audience entertained, at least a good chunk of them, because again, it's very impressionistic. It's very loving of human nature, of the human aspect. One of my favorites is oh gosh, there are so many good ones. One that I'm brought back to is Gandalf with Pippin. He's kind of saying it more under his breath, but it's like, or no, maybe it's not under his breath. Maybe he's just saying it to Pippin. I can't remember. He sang the poem about Numenor and Gondor. Oh, I love that one. I also love Legolas's Lay of Nimrodel and Amroth. Like that's phenomenal, right? Like this another Forsaken love story in Tolkien's works that really doesn't get much praise, but it's a very sorrowful tale. And he tells it on the edge of Lothlorien, but again, it makes you definitely think about the aspects of love and how far someone's willing to go and what they're, you know, and all of that good stuff. So yeah, I would say those are 2 of my favorites. Chops the Maker asks, if the Silmarillion was to be split into separate novels to be read as stories like The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, how many different novels would I believe there to be? That's a really tough question. Okay, I would say maybe he'd probably do it in like 3 parts, honestly. You have the first part, the creation of the world, and the happenings in Valinor. I would say those would probably go all the way up to the the banishment of the Noldor, them leaving Valinor. Second part would be the early and middle Balerian days. You have the establishment of Doriath and the Battle of the Sudden Flame and all of that good stuff. And then you have the third part, which is the fall of Gondolin, the Arundil's voyage, the War of Wrath, and coming into the Second Age, the fall, like the destruction of Beleriand. So I think he could do it in 3, like he did the Lord of the Rings. Haley, thanks for the donation. What do you think would happen if Gil-galad survived the Last Alliance? Would the War of the Ring gone any different? That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. I would say, if Gil-galad survived the Last Alliance, the Third Age would look completely different. The elves would have participated in the War of the Ring in a larger sense, in a far larger sense, in my opinion, at least. Because the thing with Gil-galad's defeat was that the kingdom of the elves in Eriador fell. Elrond could have taken up the mantle, like he was next in line to be the High King of the elves, but he didn't take it, which is very telling of Elrond's character. He didn't want that power, and I think he saw that the days of elven kings were gone. Because you see that even Celeborn, he's not King Celeborn. Sure, you have King Thranduil, but he's kind of a different sect of elves. He's the Wood Elves, the Sindar. They're the descendants of the Sindar. And but yeah, I think Elrond saw that the time of kings were over for elves, so they kind of just more went into hiding. But now, if Gil-galad had survived, to get back to your question, that kingdom would have stayed pretty strong, and I think the elves could have raised an army against Sauron once again. It wouldn't have been as great as the army that they raised at the end of the Second Age for the War of the Last Alliance, but it still would have been a big army, So I think they would have participated far more in the War of the Ring. But again, would they have won? Would the ring have been destroyed? I don't know. That's always the thing with any kind of theories with if somebody survived or didn't in the Lord of the Rings. It all comes down to one question. Would the ring have been destroyed? Maybe the armies would have been so vast of the elves that they wouldn't have even thought about destroying the ring. They just would have taken Sauron head on, and that would have led to the elves being defeated. Who knows? So it's a very interesting question. So thank you. Oh, Andrew, thanks for joining us. Niminador, thanks for the donation. It means a lot. What do you think would have happened if Bilbo took the ring with him instead of leaving it for Frodo, or Frodo left earlier to Rivendell? Great question. If Bilbo took the ring with him, I don't know if he would have even ended up in Rivendell. Likely it's possible he would have gone mad along the way, like thinking maybe the elves would take it from him or something like that. He would have at least just kept it on his person and would have become more like Gollum, honestly, which is kind of sad. But I don't know if it would have been presented, if the Council of Elrond would have ever happened. Now, if Frodo had left earlier, actually, that's one scenario, like one of the few, where I think maybe it would have been better for the Free Peoples if Frodo had left earlier. I know Gandalf told him to leave, like, at his birthday in 3018, or, like, after his birthday. But, yeah, if he would have left earlier, I think it actually would have probably helped the Free Peoples. They could have had the council probably earlier and looked at what they were dealing with before Gondor and Helm's Deep were invaded, before Saruman really completed his transformation against the Free Peoples. So, yeah, that would have probably helped the Free Peoples more. It's showtime. Asks, do you think you'll ever do any lore videos on Game of Thrones or The Witcher? Thanks for the question. No. Not, at least not. See, here's the thing, right? You have Tolkien's works, and they are so fascinating to me, and I've grown up with them to where I've, thought about it every day. I've learned more about it, that kind of thing. And really, when you're thinking week to week, can I keep making content about this? Can I sit down for 12 hours every Saturday/Sunday and make a video about Tolkien's works? I can. Now I might eventually, need to, especially with like midterms or finals or something, I might need to take a weekend off, which I haven't done since I came back to the channel in like last January. Who knows, that break, that vacation, that like 1 weekend vacation, it might come at some point. But ultimately, I always look at it and I'm like, well, I know how many people love these videos, and I love making them, right? I love thinking and talking about Tolkien's works. I love reading more about it and coming back to it and the themes of it every week. I don't think I could do that with Game of Thrones, with The Witcher, with even Star Wars. I love Star Wars, but there are so many great channels out there that already cover Star Wars, and again, my fascination with it doesn't go as far as it does with Tolkien's works. With Tolkien's works, I feel refreshed enough to come back and make a new video every week, but I don't think I could do that with really any other franchise. And if I ever were to, it wouldn't be on this channel. I would make a new channel for it, but yeah, hope that answers your questions. But yeah, ultimately, Lord of the Rings, Silmarillion, The Hobbit, all of Tolkien's works, that's where I'm living, and that's where I'm going to stay. Just because my heart isn't in the other works as much to make that content. So hope you guys understand. Frank, thanks for the donation. Really means a lot. What do you think happened to the Blue Wizards? Awesome question. Like I was saying earlier, it's possible Saruman just like offed them in the east. It's definitely possible, because he was one of the last people to see him from our narrative perspective. Now, likely they encountered Haradrim or Easterlings or whoever else, but I would think that they went east and likely were captured or slain at the hands of these servants of Sauron. If they were captured, it's possible that they were forced to teach Sauron's servants some sort of power, some sort of lore craft I'm hesitant to say magic, but something that something that men would consider magic, definitely possible there. Maybe they worked alongside the Black Númenóreans, or maybe even Sauron just took them as his servants. Maybe they ruled for Sauron in the east. It's all of these things are possible. So yeah, hope that helps. All right, I think I'm going to do a few more questions here. Is Elrond's human heritage ever made clear? If his parents were both half-elven as well, is there a first human and a first elf to have fallen in love, or in his line created apart from man and elf? Chops the Maker, thanks for the question. So it's interesting, right? At the end of the First Age, the Valar gave, I think it was Manwë specifically, gave half-elves a choice. You can choose to be mortal or immortal. You can choose to be of elven kindred or of men kindred. With Elrond, he chose elven kindred, and his parents were Arundel and oh no, I'm blanking on her name. Hold on. Elwing. And, yeah, Elwing. Arendiel and Elwing. And, they were... Yeah, so, wait, is that right? Yeah, Elwing? I think they were also, yeah, both half-elven, right? So it traces back up... I do want to make a video on this, and it'll be much clearer than me rambling right now, but trying to figure part of it out, at least. Let's see. Oh, yeah, okay. Arendiel was the half-elven son of Tuor and Idriel of Gondolin. Tuor was a full-blooded man. I think he was of Beors? The House of Beor? No, the House of Hodor. Yeah, that's right. The House of Hodor. And then his mother was Idriel of Gondolin, an elven woman. Or, yeah, an elven maiden, I should say. I think... Let's go to Elwing. It's a very interesting question, because I do think you're right. Elwing is, she also half-elven, or is she just elven? Oh, yeah, she is half-elven. Oh, that's right. Dior and Nimloth. And the mother and father of Dior were Luthien and Beren. So yeah, Elrond is descended both from Beren and Luthien and Tuor and Idriel. So that's what makes him half-elven. And he's able to choose kind of which side he wants to take. His brother Elros took the side of man, and he took the side of elves. So he's half-elven from both his mother and his father. I hope that helps. That was a very long-winded explanation, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was correct. What happened, Austin Hill asks, what happened to the other orcs and goblins after the destruction of the One Ring? So, I don't think they were hunted down, basically, is what it comes down to. They were still out there, but I think in small groups that wouldn't really do much harm to anyone who, unless that person was having a bad day and stumbled upon a den of orcs, you know, a cave of goblins. So, yeah. I would say they were just hunted down pretty much. Master Dwarf asks, friend, please tell me why doesn't Sauron use the Balrogs for his dominion over Middle-earth in the War of the Ring? Are they bound to Morgoth or ignoring Sauron? And ignoring Sauron. Good question. So they don't really, they don't serve Sauron. The one in Moria just kind of happened to be... it happened in Sauron's favor, I feel like. Just that he awoke, fought Gandalf, all of that stuff. He doesn't... yeah, they don't serve Sauron. If it was Melkor, on the other hand, if Melkor was the one ruling from Mordor, oh, yeah, the Balrogs would have been his top lieutenants. He probably wouldn't even have Nazgul. He'd just have Balrogs. So they don't serve him, and as far as we know, Durin's Bane, the Balrog in Moria, is the only one left. It's possible that there were others, but that I'd say if there were, there's probably just like one more in like the far eastern mountains or something, just way underground. It's possible, but it's unlike the Cold Drakes that we were talking about earlier. Cold Drakes, I would say there's likely probably more, but Balrogs, Durin's Bane was probably the last one, if we're being honest. Paul A., where do you recommend I go on the internet for the most info on Lord of the Rings? I would, let's see, Tolkien Gateway is a good one. Tolkien Gateway, but the thing that you have to be careful about with Tolkien Gateway, with Lord of the Rings Wikipedia, all of these sites, I would say Tolkien Gateway is probably your best bet, but it's just you have to be careful because there might be misreadings. Whoever wrote these things might have misread some things. Like, I was using them as a resource for my last video, the Dwarven Rings, And I think Tolkien Gateway, it was a little off with certain aspects, so you just have to be careful. Just cross-reference. If you go online looking for information, cross-reference between a few different websites, and you'll come up with the right answer. If there's like a majority answer of, oh, this happened, you know, 2 websites say this, but one doesn't, go with that probably did happen, so. Yeah, just a few more questions here, and I'll go through the guidelines for the giveaway one last time. So all you have to do to enter in this giveaway for the Commemorative Men of the West coin, I've got it right here, is just like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a question in the live stream. And then in like 10 minutes, I will go ahead and choose the winner. And that person will have 24 hours to contact me over Facebook, Twitter, YouTube messages, or email before I choose a new winner from the comments section after this video is posted. I want to make sure this is given away, so if I don't get a response or anything like that, I'll make, you know, I'll choose a different winner. So after the video is posted, feel free to comment again, and it might increase your chances of winning. So thank you guys. Oh, let's see. Joel Argles asks, could you read Namarye at the end of the stream? I think it would be fitting. I'll try to read a part of it. Now, you guys know how the internet is. Sometimes I get butchered in the comment sections because they're like, oh, you know, fix your Elvish. But I'm trying the best I can, and I try to fix my pronunciations as best as I can. Odds are this isn't going to be a perfect reading of it, but I'll try my best towards the end of it. Unless you guys like it in common speech. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but oh, Paul A asks, once you've expanded more, will you make more of those coins, or will you keep those special? I don't know. I have to get into I'd have to ask my my friend again who did craft these coins. The link for the video where he casted this coin is in the description, and his channel as well. But yeah, I'd have to contact him to see if we can make similar coins. It might have a different design because I'm not sure. We might just keep these ones special for this live stream and to celebrate 100,000 subscribers, but or they could be the same. So I'm not sure at this point. I'd love to make to have more to give away to you guys, but yeah, right now this is I've got one to keep for me and just to celebrate the milestone from my friend, and then I've got one to give away. So those are all that exist at this point. Dennis, thanks for the donation. Listen to Blind Guardian, Middle Earth Metal. I've checked it out. It's awesome. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Royan, who does the podcasts with me on Patreon, he loves that album too. He actually was one of the first people to recommend it to me. Yeah, so also I wanted to give a shout out to that. If you guys wanted to consider donating to our Patreon, link for that is in the description. I have 3 podcasts up so far with my friend Royan, and we talk about all sorts of Tolkien-esque stuff. So please check that out. We also got merch out a few weeks ago, last week. Please check that out. I'm actually wearing a t-shirt hoodie Men of the West thing right now, so I love it. It's pretty cool. What do you think happened to the Moraquendi or Dark Elves from Ian Miller? That's a great question. I'm not sure, actually. Well, so you have the I think you have the Dark Elves, like the Sindar who never left. Let's see. Yeah, so you have the Sindar who never left Beleriand to Valinor. They stuck around. Yeah, you know, those would be like Legolas, you know. But what happened to the RV and the Nandor? Not exactly sure. Yeah, I'd actually like to do... That'd be a fun video to make, where I go into more research there. All right, guys, we're going to do two more questions, and then I'm going to do the giveaway, and yeah, make sure whoever wins, just make sure to contact me, and then I'll try to read a bit of Namadie, and that'll do it for today. Andrew Lamb asks, if Tolkien's lore was a prehistory of our modern times, what would our world be like if the elves never diminished and left, the dwarves never faded from history, and we still faced the dark forces? Well, that's a very profound question. It's fascinating. Like, I think we would, I don't know. I mean, we would probably still be roughly in the same place. Well, I guess if you're looking at our technology now, if we had our technology now, it would be interesting. Would you have civil rights for orcs? Some orcs who were able to escape Sauron's menace, right? Would you have these kind of more modern themes of social equality within all of the races? Like, I don't know. I mean, it could be that racial fights would have been worse throughout history, or it could be that, you know, maybe we would have all remained united as the free peoples. You know, I don't think our world would be so splintered if there were dark forces like Dark Lords, Sauron, Melkor, all of these evil beings to fight. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how far forward technology would have gotten, because you look at Middle-earth and Tolkien's works, you have like thousands of years, but the technology almost remained the same until Saruman came along. Saruman kind of got the wheels of industry turning, but even so much, and he did it in kind of a bad way, where it resulted in the deforestation of Fangorn and all of that. So it's interesting. It's really hard to tell how our world would look like today. Likely we would be still in a similar place, but there would be millions of people, like probably not billions, but it'd be millions of people on the side of the free peoples. There would be so many elves, dwarves, hobbits, men running around with probably social, like, equal rights and all of that. You just kind of, you're doing your thing and you live where you live. It's an interesting thought. It really is. Let's see. One more question. Here we go. Here we go. Andrew Gorsnell. If you had to write a book set in the Fourth Age, what story would you want to tell? Personally, I'd like to see what happened to the orcs and the other wizards besides Gandalf. Great question. So yeah, Tolkien did start on that book, the New Shadow, or A New Shadow, something like that, where he was talking about it, and he was talking about the Fourth Age and kind of where Gondor ended up, and under the rule of Eldarion. I think that would have been kind of cool. I would have liked to see the fallout after Sauron, after you have this Dark Lord, and after you've had Dark Lords for 3 ages straight. First age, Melkor. Second age, Sauron. Third age, Sauron. You know, after you have all these, even in the years of the trees and years of the lamps, you still have Melkor running around doing his thing. After all of that fallout, what would Earth look like? Like, what would Middle-earth do? Or, you know, what would the people do, I guess? You have the dwarves that would continue mining, the elves who would continue leaving, hobbits just doing the hobbit things, and men expanding, you know, the reunited kingdom. So I just would have liked to see that, right? What conflicts would have come up with Middle-earth after Sauron's defeat? Because I know Tolkien was thinking about doing like this cultist thing where there were cultists within, I think, Gondor that were like worshiping people, or worshiping like the remnants of Sauron's presence, something like that, right? But that's what I would have liked to see, the fallout, right? Okay, we'll do we'll do one more question because it was a donation. So thank you for the donation, Rebecca. What would have happened if Arathorn survived? He would have probably been he would have been around to help raise Aragorn. Aragorn likely still would have been fostered, at least for a time, in Rivendell. But I don't think Aragorn would have been as strong as an individual, because he wouldn't have had so much to overcome in his lifetime, right? He probably would have had a happier life, definitely, but if his father was around for a lot longer. But he wouldn't have been able to, maybe overcome as much as he did, because he would have still had more of his family around. It's a sad thing, but it's kind of like the, the hard times breed the strong people. And I kind of feel like to some degree that was Aragorn. He was he was it, right? It's like, dude, Aragorn, if you fail, if you don't reunite the kingdoms, if you don't help destroy Sauron, that's it. Like, he could have maybe had a kid, but yeah, Elrond and his people were leaving those shores, right? His kid wouldn't have had a place to be fostered like he and his ancestors did. It was up to Aragorn. He was the last remnant of like the Númenorian blood, you could almost say. I know there were other descendants of Númenor running around like Halbarad, but yeah, he was it pretty much. If he fails, then the men of the West fail, but if he succeeds, then the world is saved. A lot resting on his shoulders. But now, if he had the help of his father, that I don't know if that position would have remained as clear, right, to Aragorn from such an early age. If it would have been as hard of a life to breed him to overcome the challenge. So yeah, it's cool. It's definitely an interesting thought. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and do the giveaway. Yeah, don't worry too much. I'm gonna do I want to do more live streams in the future, but just as college is starting back up again and all of that stuff, I won't have as much time, but I really enjoy doing these things with you all. So don't worry, more will happen in the future. At least maybe I want to do maybe one more before the year ends some point. So just whenever I have time. Yeah, and I'll try to choose even maybe a different time, maybe noon or something. So that way no, it'd be, let's see, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Something like that, because let's see, I did 5 p.m. Eastern Standard, and now it's 11 Eastern Standard. I could do 2 p.m. somewhere right in the middle. So hopefully maybe even more people can make it. Yeah, so that'd be fun. I'll just try to do that before the year is out, so somewhere in the next 4 months. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna go through the chat right now, and I'm gonna look away, and then wherever my mouse lands, that'll be the winner. All right, who is this? Wow. All right, awesome. Paul A. Go ahead and contact me over Facebook, over Twitter, wherever. Paul A, you have won the commemorative Men of the West coin, and honestly, that's fitting. I know that yeah, you've been very, very happy with, you've been going through the chat, you've been typing a lot, and yeah, awesome. You've been answering a lot of questions that I haven't been able to get to, so that really helped your chances, I suppose. So just, yeah, randomly clicked. So, cool. All right. Namarie. Let's see. So, here's what I'll do. I'll read, I'll at least try to read the first stanza in Elvish, and then I'll just read the rest in English, and then that'll call it. So, Laurier, Lantor Lasai, Sorinen, Yeni Uno Taime, Vira Rama Aldarian, Yeni Vi Linte, Yodar Avienar, Mi Arumandi, Lisi Muru Varie, Andune Pella Vardu Telumar, Nu Luni Yasan Tentala I Eleni, Amario, Ayatari Lilarian. Oh my gosh, that was well, I tried. Yeah, that's a very tough one. If you guys haven't heard Tolkien read it, he does recite it, and he will put me to shame. So yeah, try to look that up if you ever get a chance. Tolkien reciting Namarie. All right. Well, I'll finish with the English translation. Thank you guys so much for watching, joining me on this adventure. Really means a lot. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I know I did. So thank you all. Here we go. Like gold fall the leaves in the wind. long years numberless as the wings of trees. The years have passed like swift droughts of the sweet mead in lofty halls beyond the west, beneath the blue vaults of Varda, wherein the stars tremble in the ice of her voice, holy and queenly. Who now shall refill the cup for me? For now the kindler, Varda, the queen of stars, from Mount Everwhite has uplifted her hands like clouds, and all paths are drowned deep in shadow. And out of a gray country darkness lies on the foaming waves between us, and mist covers the jewels of Kalakiria forever. Now lost to those from the east is Valamar. Farewell, may thou shalt find Valamar. Maybe even thou shalt find it. Farewell.